We all agree, right? The era of the internal combustion engine vehicle, the ICEV is coming to a close.
It has to. I mean, environmentally speaking, the whole ICE age has been, well, a bit of a disaster.
A disaster is a good word for it. Local pollution, noise, this massive climate debt. So the mission is clear. We have to shift away.
And, the immediate answer everyone hears is the electric vehicle, the EV. Zero emissions, problem solved.
But this deep dive isn't really about those simple promises. We are taking a really comprehensive look at the entire life cycle of the car.
From the moment the raw materials are pulled from the ground all the way to the moment the vehicle is hopefully recycled.
That's our mission today, and it's really for you, the listener. We're dissecting a claim we found in our source material that's, well, it's pretty provocative.
It is. The question is the battery electric vehicle, the BEV, truly the ultimate green solution today?
Or is the hybrid electric vehicle, the HEV, actually the smarter, more suitable transitional choice for right now?
And what fundamental innovations do BEVs desperately need to actually win in the long run?
To get there, we have to look beyond the tailpipe. We've got to assess if the huge upfront environmental costs of making the battery, plus some of these hidden operational emissions, just end up neutralizing the whole zero exhaust benefit.
It's a classic trade-off, isn't it? You eliminate one problem, but you might just be creating or magnifying three others.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the operational win for the BEV because it is massive.
It really is. The EV successfully eliminates nitrogen dioxide, NO air, and all that traditional exhaust particulate matter.
In cities, that's an undeniable public health victory, no question.
It is, but here's where it gets really interesting. As those exhaust emissions drop to zero, another type of pollution just steps up to dominate the scene.
And that is non-exhaust emissions, or NEEs.
Exactly.
Okay, so if it's not coming from the exhaust, what exactly are we talking about?
We're talking about friction. It's the tiny particles generated by just the physical act of driving. So tire wear, brake wear, the road surface wearing down.
And just kicking up dust that's already there.
And kicking up dust that's already there. And the data here is staggering. These NEEs now make up, get this, up to 90% of all transport-related particulate matter.
90%. So you solved the tailpipe problem, but you've only addressed about 10% of the overall particle pollution problem.
You got it. Which brings us right to the biggest operational liability of the modern BEV. It's sheer weight.
The weight.
Precisely. Let's use a simple analogy for you to picture this. If the BEV is a child, the massive battery is like a super heavy backpack it has to carry everywhere.
Okay, got it. Heavy backpack.
So what happens? That extra weight causes way more wear and tear on the child's shoes, those are the tires, and it kicks up significantly more dust from the ground.
And that's the resuspension. And you're saying the technical data actually supports that visualization.
Oh, absolutely. Our sources confirm a strong linear relationship. Road dust resuspension increases almost exactly with vehicle weight, to the power of 1.02 to be precise.
So it's not subtle at all.
Not at all. And when researchers compared total PM10 emissions, that's the inhalable particulate matter, they found the BEV's zero exhaust win was completely, undermined.
Wait, hold on. So you're telling me that all the effort, all the resources, all the production debt we're about to discuss, and the heavy BEV doesn't even clear the hurdle of operational pollution?
It is astonishing. But the data is clear. The BEV's total PM10 emissions were measured at 65.7 milligrams per vehicle kilometer.
Okay, and for comparison?
Gasoline ICEVs were at 66.0. Diesel ICEVs were at 65.3.
They're identical. For all intents and purposes, that's the same number.
They are identical. The increased tire wear and dust from the heavy battery it completely neutralizes the zero exhaust benefit.
That's a huge, almost counterintuitive revelation. And what happens when we look at the trend toward bigger electric vehicles? The massive electric SUVs and pickup trucks.
The problem just scales massively. Our sources note that large cars emit 55% more particulates than small cars. And large electric pickup trucks, they emit more than double the particulate matter compared to a small car.
So the environmental footprint of a BEV right now is basically defined by its mass.
It is. Which makes you wonder if the industry is chasing sales with giant vehicles at the expense of its own environmental mission.
And this is where the hybrid electric vehicle, the HEV, suddenly steps forward as a much smarter alternative for today.
Right. If weight is the enemy, the HEV has a huge advantage. Its battery is, maybe a tenth of the size. It's significantly lighter.
So it's a win-win for the hybrid.
It's a multifaceted win. They're not only lighter, which drastically cuts that weight penalty, but both HEVs and plug-in hybrids use regenerative braking constantly,
So they're not even using their friction brakes as much.
far less.
Yeah.
And that means a cleaner operational profile, reducing those grayquare particles. They get tremendous efficiency in quiet driving without the colossal manufacturing debt of a heavy BEV.
That transition is perfect. It leads us right to the second major hurdle. If the BEV struggles to win the operational battle, we have to ask, was all that upfront effort even worth it? Let's talk about that production debt.
Yeah, when we do a full life cycle assessment, a cradle-to-grave analysis, the environmental debt for a BEV doesn't go away. It just gets shifted
Right to the beginning.
heavily to the production phase and specifically to that massive battery pack.
It's the expensive cake analogy you mentioned in the sources.
Exactly. Manufacturing that huge BEV battery is like having to bake a very complicated resource-intensive cake before you're even allowed to drive the car.
So you start in a huge environmental hole, a carbon debt.
A massive carbon debt. Our sources show manufacturing an EV emits significantly more co-euros than producing a comparable ICE EV.
And that debt, it goes way beyond just carbon, doesn't it? We're talking resource consumption and industrial waste.
The statistics are sobering. The LCA analysis shows that EV natural resource consumption and industrial waste production are 6 times higher than for ICE EVs.
6 times. That's a shocking multiple.
It's huge. On top of that, harmful substance emissions are 1.65 times higher, and greenhouse gases are 1.5 times higher during production, all driven by mining and processing metals, like nickel, cobalt, and manganese.
So the waste isn't just voluminous, it's toxic.
Yeah.
And it's demanding of our planet's most critical resources.
That's the toxicity cost. Because of components like nickel and cobalt, the total mass of toxic waste is significantly higher. And take water, for instance. Lithium production is incredibly water-intensive.
How intensive?
To produce just 1 ton of lithium, that's enough for maybe 100 car batteries. You need about 2 million liters of water.
Wow.
And this process has led to heavy water depletion in fragile ecosystems, like the South American lithium triangle in Chile.
And we can't ignore the profound social and ethical costs that are tied into that supply chain.
This is a critical point that needs way more attention.
Yeah.
Nearly half of the world's accessible cobalt is in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And tragically, reports indicate that about 20% of that cobalt comes from artisanal mines.
Where an estimated 40,000 children are reportedly working in just horrible, dangerous conditions.
Exactly. So the quest for these green minerals to reduce carbon emissions somewhere else comes with this immense and immediate human cost right now.
Is there any mechanism being created to address this? I mean, is traceability enough?
It requires both traceability and, frankly, new chemistry. We'll talk a bit later about the EU's digital battery passport, which is designed to force transparency on material origin.
But transparency alone doesn't solve it.
It doesn't. Ultimately, we need battery chemistries that move away from reliance on these specific conflict minerals altogether.
Okay, so we have the weight problem canceling the operational wins. We have the production paradox creating this massive manufacturing and ethical debt. Let's shift to the third big hurdle, which is a very practical and, frankly, terrifying safety challenge, the fire risk.
Yeah, the thermal runaway challenge. It's something BEV manufacturers are working desperately to solve. It's when battery cells overheat, and it triggers this rapid, self-sustaining fire that is incredibly difficult to stop.
And because the battery pack is a sealed unit, you can't just spray water on it like a normal fire.
Exactly. The water can't penetrate the structure to cool the internal components. And it's not just a conventional fire. The off-gassing is an air quality disaster,
What kind of gases are we talking about?
a really toxic cocktail. Things like diethyl carbonate, butane, ethylene, and the intensely dangerous hydrofluoric acid. Butane and DEC are even noted as potential carcinogens.
When I read the reports on the resources needed to fight these fires, I was just stunned. It throws the whole fire infrastructure challenge into stark relief.
It radically changes what first responders need. Data from U.S. Fire and Tesla reports.
Yeah.
It's pretty shocking. Extinguishing an EV fire takes 8 times longer.
8 hours versus 1 hour for a normal car.
Right. It takes 2.5 times more personnel. And here's the number that should make any city planner just pause. It requires 110 tons of water.
110 tons of water. That is 110 times more than a traditional car fire. So if a standard fire truck carries, 1,000 gallons? They'd need over 26,000 gallons for one BE fire.
And are we really factoring that extreme infrastructure demand and water usage into the total cost of this transition? Probably not.
And even then, it might not be out.
Not at all. Reignition is a major risk. They've seen refires even 22 hours later. And this danger is multiplied in places like underground garages or on car ferries, where those heavy toxic gases can settle low and spread the fire horizontally.
This all just keeps reinforcing the core argument we set out to investigate. That right now, today, the HEV, the hybrid, seems to be the optimal transitional solution.
It does. I mean, to justify the heavy BEV over the lighter hybrid, we need a fundamental leap in technology.
A radical innovation.
Absolutely. The hybrid minimizes that resource debt while maximizing efficiency with regenerative braking. For BEVs to be the truly superior long-term solution, we have to solve the current constraints: the high weight, the high resource cost, the dependence on critical minerals, and this inherent fire risk.
So if the solution isn't just regulatory, it's got to be scientific. Where are scientists focusing their efforts?
It's material science, mostly. Researchers are working on replacing critical minerals like cobalt and graphite with more abundant alternatives, like iron and silicon.
We're already seeing some of that with LFP batteries, right?
Exactly. Lithium iron phosphate, or LFP, is becoming more common. It's less energy dense than, say, an NMC battery, but it uses fewer critical resources and has a significantly lower thermal runaway risk. That's a key safety trade-off right there.
And beyond just changing the materials, the whole industry is being forced into a circular economy model.
That's the regulatory push. You can see in things like the EU battery regulation. It demands sustainability across the entire life cycle. The traceability part is huge. This digital battery passport, effective in 2027, will require real-time data on the battery's carbon footprint, material origin, everything.
And they're setting hard targets for recycling.
They have to. These batteries contain too much valuable material to just throw away. Mandatory minimums for recycled content are coming. By 2031, it'll be 6% for lithium and nickel, 16% for cobalt.
But that recycling process itself sounds incredibly complex.
It is. It starts with collecting and then deactivating the battery, discharging it carefully to prevent fires. Then they shred it into what the industry calls black mass.
Black mass.
It's this fine black powder that contains all the valuable metals. And to get them out, you either use intense heat, that's pyrometallurgy, or you dissolve the material in acids, which is hydrometallurgy. It's resource intensive, but it's the only way to close the loop.
Finally, we should look at the huge potential upside, because EVs aren't just cars. They're basically massive mobile batteries.
That's the game changer. That's the true promise of BEVs if the resource issues can be solved. Grid integration. Through smart charging and vehicle-to-grid or V2G technology, EVs can become flexibility assets for the grid.
So they can charge up when there's tons of solar or wind power.
And then sell that power back to the grid during peak demand, stabilizing the whole system. The potential for cost savings and energy resilience is huge, but it requires this deep ecosystem integration.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, trying to navigate this landscape? We've seen that the EV story is a massive two-sided coin.
On one side, BEVs are incredibly successful at eliminating local tailpipe pollution. That's a crucial public health goal.
But on the other side, they currently carry this enormous upfront resource and manufacturing debt, coupled with hidden operational costs because of their excessive weight.
And the data shows that the hybrid, the HEV, currently offers the smartest, most pragmatic balance. You get excellent efficiency, reduced local emissions, but without the colossal manufacturing debt and the weight penalty that undermines the whole environmental case for current BEVs.
You know, we started this deep dive thinking about classic EV metrics, things like range and charging speed. But the data has pointed us to a single critical factor that dictates almost everything: vehicle weight.
That's it. We were obsessed with range anxiety, but maybe the real engineering and environmental anxiety should be weight anxiety.
So if the environmental viability of a BEV is fundamentally determined by its mass, and if that mass currently cancels out the operational gain,
Then the provocative thought we want to leave you with is this. What does it mean for the environmental mission when the industry's focus seems to be on building electric vehicles that weigh over 8,000 pounds?
is the quest for these larger, heavier electric SUVs and pickup trucks fundamentally contradictory to the environmental goals they were created to serve?